cause I'm on one.
You know, we have ones that's a Rastafari, live in the city, Kingston City, Manhattan, like you know, we live amongst our universal brothers and sisters, and Rastafari is for each and every one. So it's not a...
Swinging for the fences for the home run.
Habesha, Begusana gets to Ethiopia. Habesha, Mr. Maya, the Farambasa. Habesha.
Even further beyond into the universe, but I've got to make it to first.
Urgent message from the 12 seers of Mount Zion. They said the black nation will be blessed by God in these days. Circle the mountain and go home. Shabbat, Mount Zion calling me.
All right, so folks, we are actually getting into a little bit more of the details dealing with the Ethiopian dam negotiations, which we spoke on a few URZs ago, or a few podcasts ago here for this particular segment of Discipleship Radio. And interestingly enough, you know, things are getting very, very serious around these issues. And you'll hear us actually speak a little bit more on these in upcoming segments that will be kind of specialized. One should also, of course, look forward to, you know, our coming interview, of course, with our repatriated brethren, Haile Jesus, which they've heard probably on the past couple of URCs from this one, which we are speaking now, but you know, more so to a lot of the issues that have been going on with the Rastafari that have repatriated and have been there, some for some 40 odd years and some since the time inception of the Shashamane land grant. So look forward to that. And actually, before we get into a little bit more of you know, our segments here, also a big shout out to all the members of our WhatsApp group, the So Eco Media Street team. If you haven't got linked to that, link up with someone who is actually within the group. Big shout out to all of the members. We'll seek to kind of give a little bit more promotion for that WhatsApp group, because we are sharing a lot of information which ones can take in and actually utilize right here in the here and now, especially if you're looking to gain more skills, if you're looking to gain you know, more so certifications, things that will allow you to work more independently of your own self, and also teach many other ones that are around you as well. Of course, increase your income, also build businesses, and we'll be sharing a lot more of that information, you know, on a daily basis as much as we can. We're not as active as we would like to be, but we at least have 2 to 3 posts every 7 days. So we're actually sharing information that is very vital for ones in the here and now. So if you're looking to gain a lot more skills, you're looking to see where a lot of trends are going, especially in the socio-economic space, we tend to share some geopolitical things here or there, but more so focusing on those in the here and now, and those looking to build up a little bit more of their own skill set, especially in this ever-changing technological age. But here to the report here from Voice of America, entitled "No Deal from U.S. Brokered Nile Dam Talks." And here the writer is a Patsy Widakusra. And also this was coming from February 29th, 2020. Now there has been more reports that have come out since then, but we'd like to focus in on this because it deals mostly with the negotiations and the things that have been going on so far, and also keeping up coherently with what we shared from the last couple of our URZs. But here, in the White House, Ethiopia rejected a U.S. brokered agreement on the Grand Ethiopian Dam, or the GERD project, and said it would commence first filing of the structure 1 day after the Trump administration concluded 2 days of what is supposed to be the final round of talks. Addis Ababa did not participate in the latest negotiation in Washington. In a statement released Saturday, the country said it did not accept the U.S. characterization that the negotiation of the guidelines and rules on the first filing and annual operation of the GERD is completed. Ethiopia said the text of the draft agreement, reportedly initiated by Egypt, was quote-unquote not the outcome of the negotiation with Egypt and Sudan, but noted its commitment to continue engagement with them to address the matter. Addis Ababa and Cairo have been at odds in a water war on the issue of the filing and operation of the giant Ethiopian dam that Egypt worries could threaten its supply of water from the Nile. Instead of meeting with the three countries involved in the conflict, U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, host of the negotiations, participated in bilateral meetings Thursday and Friday with ministers of foreign affairs and ministers of water resources in Egypt and Sudan. The Treasury statement, according to the Treasury statement, late Friday, the United States facilitated the preparation of an agreement on the filing and operation of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, or the GERD-based project, on provisions proposed by the legal and technical teams Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan, and with the technical input of the World Bank. The United States believes that the work completed over the last 4 months has resulted in an agreement that addresses all issues in a balanced and equitable manner. Taking into account the interests of the three countries, the statement said, adding that the final testing and filling of the dam should not take place without an agreement. The statement noted the readiness of the government of Egypt to sign the agreement and recognized that Ethiopia continues its national consultations. On Wednesday, Ethiopia said it would not participate in the latest rounds of negotiations. The country's ambassador to the United States, Fitsum Arega, said on Twitter that Ethiopia will not sign any agreement that gives up its rights on how to use its own Nile water. A second statement by Ethiopia's Water, Irrigation and Energy Ministry, published by Ethiopia's state-owned media, said it would not take part in this week's meetings because it has not completed internal consultations. They aren't really talks without Ethiopia, quote-unquote, said Bronwyn Bruton, deputy director of the Atlantic Council's Africa Center. Sources tell VOA, or the Voice of America, that Ethiopia has been urging Mnuchin since February 13th of 2020 to postpone the talks as well as remind the U.S. of its neutral observer status, quote-unquote. Mnuchin also disputed Ethiopia's characterization of his role, saying that the observer status the U.S. agreed to is limited to regional technical negotiations and does not include Washington talks. Despite the setback, the process may not be entirely lost. Ethiopia is calling this a postponement, said William Davidson, senior Ethiopia analyst at the International Crisis Group. They're not suggesting that the meeting has been canceled forever, but only that they need more time to prepare for it, he said. Final negotiations among Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan on the guidelines and rules of filling and operation of the $4.5 billion mega dam were scheduled for Thursday and Friday. Mnuchin, whom U.S. President Donald Trump had appointed to lead on the matter, has hosted several rounds of talks since November with ministers and countries and the World Bank. The Treasury Department has not responded to VOA's request for additional comments. There has been widespread concern in Ethiopia that its delegation is being pressured by the U.S. to accept a deal it cannot live with. On Thursday, a few dozen Ethiopians in Washington protested in front of the U.S. Department of State building, urging the U.S. to stop its pressure campaign against Addis Ababa. The dam is the centerpiece of Addis Ababa's bid to increase domestic energy production for its growing population. Ethiopia and Egypt have been negotiating for years, but one sticking point remains: the rate at which Ethiopia will draw water out of the Nile to fill the dam's reservoir. Cairo fears Ethiopia's plans to rapidly fill the reservoir could threaten Egypt's source of fresh water. It is a hugely important and sensitive issue, said Meret Mabrouk, director of the Middle East Institute Egypt Studies Program. It's a matter of life and death for a lot of people, certainly for more than 1 million Egyptians. In the last round of Washington talks last month, Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan agreed on a schedule for staging, filling the dam, and mitigation mechanisms to adjust its filling operation during dry periods and drought. The parties said at the time that they would sign a final agreement by the end of February. It is unclear whether there will be any follow-up talks after this week's negotiations broke down. Trump has been interested in the project since he agreed to intervene based on Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's request in September. He has since invited officials from the countries in the dispute to at least 2 Oval Office meetings and called Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed-Ali to discuss the matter. An administration official told The Voice of America, or VOA, that Trump prides himself in his deal-making abilities and wants to see this agreement achieved. No one from the administration, though, has elaborated on what the U.S. interest is in this deal. In November, the Ethiopian embassy in Washington held a press conference during which officials gave a detailed account of their U.S. brokered meeting and said Trump was planning to cut the ribbon, quote-unquote, after the completion of the dam. America's significant leverage over Ethiopia could provide Trump with a chance to push for a treaty to prove his deal-making prowess, said Adisu Lashito, the Rubenstein Fellow in the Global Economy and Development Program at the Brookings Institution. In the wake of his controversial peace plan for resolving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, President Trump might be keen to strengthen his friendship with Egypt by resolving his thorny issue, Lashito said. Egypt has been a key player in the Middle East peace talks. Last month, the Trump administration released its plan to resolve the conflict between Palestine and Israel without buy-in from the Palestinians. And this concludes our reading here, and so much more really to be said on this issue. And if ones haven't been up on a lot of the updates here, as I mentioned before, there's been a lot of things going on as far as the talks around the GERD project, or the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam project, and just a whole lot of chatter that has been going on. Even so, as mentioned here in the report, Ethiopians did indeed protest in Washington, D.C. at the Department of State, or the DOS department. And, again, as we mentioned before, so many things are heating up in so many ways. Dealing with this specific project, they're dealing with probably one of the most famed rivers in all of the world, which is the Nile. So we'll definitely keep more eyes on this project again, actually watching this very closely, even speaking to a few of our brethren, just throughout the Rastafari community, especially our brother Amir. And even so, as we mentioned before, we'll speak a lot more on this with Brother Haile Yesus, who's been on the ground for at least the past dozen years as a repatriated Rastafari, and also giving us a lot more information on much of our repatriated Rastafari brethren who are still there, living on the land grant in Shashamani, and ones could definitely look forward to that just in the coming moments. So as always, indeed, stay tuned. So much more to get into.